When you care about current affairs, it's on the OShow.
So there's recent reporting on that I just heard in the car. Apparently, the Telegraph is reporting it, but check sources, guys, because I just heard it. That in that, there was that pivotal moment at the United Nations when Zelensky sat down with the head of the EU and Trump, and came out of that, and then we heard Trump's change in narrative. Now, I don't think Trump's going to give more to Ukraine. I think he sees it as a money making venture. This war,
100%.
he's
Yeah.
admitted that, but he might not stand in their way, and even hyping them up a little bit might help, right? But apparently, what was requested was, according to the Telegraph, I don't want to put any false information out there, that that he was requesting Tomahawk missiles to fire into Moscow. And after what we saw Zelensky do in the last week, where they surrounded Moscow with drones, they hit major oil infrastructure deep into the country, they blew up trains. Like they didn't go after civilian targets because, again, they didn't start this thing. They're a peaceful nation, as Zelensky said at the UN. They just want to be able to live free and independent of this, right? So they are just disabling Russia's infrastructure, disabling their economy, and apparently that might have been the ask. And I can see, if that's true, why Trump would like that, because he likes somebody who's tough. He likes someone who's taking the fight to the other guy, right? So maybe he's seeing Zelensky in a different light. I don't know. I'm not going to put a lot of stock on Trump, but I will say, guys, and I want to hear what you, before we get to Poilievre, and there's not much to say because he was pathetic the last 2 weeks, honestly. But before we get to that, Mark, I just want to frame the global situation for a second, because if you've been paying attention, after Zelensky got yelled at in the White House, and then all the world leaders said, we stand by you, and then he thanked them all on Twitter. I copied all of I followed all of them, so I'm following all of these, prime ministers and their diplomatic corps. And the messaging has been nonstop all week that their parliaments are approving them to use military response to Russia. They are scrambling their jets. Russia's had drone incursions into multiple countries. Driving in, I heard that apparently there was drones over France, which is as provocative as you're going to get, right, in terms of getting NATO in a fight. Russia's crumbling. All they can do is stay in a war posture, because that's all autocrats have, is the specter of war. And so they've got to provoke NATO into a fight. NATO nations are ramping up, saying, let's go, enough of this bullshit. So we are at a very, very, very precarious place, even though it looks as though Ukraine's got the advantage now and need to press that advantage before winter. Man, oh man, Lavrov said yesterday that NATO just declared war on Russia, which he's never said before. And also that they're going to use, they might have to use the other weapons, right, which is their constant nuclear threat. So, I mean, for people who aren't paying attention, we've never been closer to war with NATO than we are right now. Mark?
Yeah, I think we've seen that.
Or as NATO, I should say, as NATO.
Yeah, we've seen that over the last month or so, and I think you're right that there has been a change in the. I think, for all that Putin, Alaska, Trump thing, I think that probably was a bit of a wake-up call for Trump, even though he won't admit it, that Putin's no friend of his, and that Putin's playing him, and that, that he's being played. And I don't think, Trump doesn't like to be played. And, it takes him a while to figure it out, but now he knows that he's being played. And I think that there has been a change Hegseth calling all of the generals back to the United States. I mean, there's obviously, I mean, I know a lot of people are speculating that this is something about domestic readiness. It could be, it could be domestic readiness in the sense that we could be at war with Russia in the next week or two.
Or it could be what Germany did when they pulled in all of the generals and they made them swear a new oath, not to the constitution of the previous thing, but to the Führer, right? I mean, that's what this could be, a worst scenario.
Who knows? I mean, I hope that it's more about, preparing everyone for generals located in all areas of the world, especially Europe, to prepare for something that might be coming. I mean, look, people forget that, Russia did this with Turkey. Turkey shot their fucking plane down and Russia did nothing, right? These guys are a bunch of, they're just
bullies.
They're just trying to and it's like they're falling apart. People can't get gas. The whole economy is falling apart. And like you said, authoritarians have no other, they know that they've lost this war. This war has lost. And they are going to get their asses kicked if they don't stop. And I think we may be as close to war as we've ever been, but we may be as close to peace as we've ever been as well, because we've kind of hit the wall here. Russia did this huge offensive. It's gone nowhere. They are now being encircled by the Ukrainians. They are being pushed back. The Ukrainians are getting better. These drone attacks, they are getting better, but they're producing their own domestic weapons. They are probably the most sophisticated army military in the entire world right now, and NATO and the United States and all of our allies should be embracing them to learn from them. They have figured it out how to fight a modern day warfare. Who thought we'd be fighting wars with drones, right? Like
And Zelensky said that. Did you see the video where Zelensky so normally he kind of shoots to camera, but there was one where he shot down a bit, which is kind of like an imposing posture. And he said that they have developed, not because they wanted to, but because they had to,
yeah,
the most modern war technology in the world. They
yeah,
are on the battlefield. They're using it. They're developing it. Their drones now can go deep, like 3,000 kilometers.
yeah,
And so he said, we will only share this technology with countries that are fully supportive of
right.
our independence and survival, right? So I saw that as Zelensky saying, yeah, we had to do this because the rest of you wouldn't do enough to help us. So we're not going to just give you what we've learned unless you're going to back us for reals. And that is a powerful position. And it's always better for leaders to communicate from a position of power,
Yeah,
always. And
yeah.
so good on him for taking the moment, for pressing his advantage and putting the world on notice.
I think watching Finland as well, which shares that very precarious border with all of us, said, no, 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 we're going to arm up right along that border. We're not going to, this just can't be done. It's not because of a threat from the south, is it? I mean, they're just, the Finnish are so staid and stoic, but they're almost comical in what in their reaction to this. Say, no, no, we're just going to toughen up. And, the Baltic states, everyone's feeling very, very nervous right now about what's going on.
The head of Germany, Keith said, like no more. Like to your point about Turkey and how they shot down that MiG or whatever years ago, Mark. You're hearing that kind of language from Germany now. Like now that they don't have to run everything by Trump, you know,
Yeah.
um, I think they're all feeling empowered. And if there's one good thing coming out of the Orange Menace in this decade of hell, is that Europe is saying, okay, we cannot trust that the global hegemony is going to help us anymore. We've got to get out there and we've got to fight our own backyard. And you know what? Good on them. But the best thing that can come out of this is that MAGA vision of spheres of influence, let China take Asia and Taiwan, let Trump have the Americas, and let Putin take Europe and whatever. That's crumbling when Russia loses. Like Russia is like the MAGA god, right? Putin, they love Putin because Putin is all about Christendom and the white man, and he represents everything that they fucking love. And if he goes down, then it kind of collapses that little bubble of theirs a little bit, and I freaking love that.
Well,
I just want to, go ahead, Mark.
well, I just as on a side note, if you look at like some of the, Russia friendly NATO nations like Slovakia, Hungary, look what's happening to their presidents right now. They're all going to
Yeah.
get smashed in the next elections because, Europe is coming together like never before.
Yeah.
United States, like you said, Trump has united Europe like never before. And he's also working against his friends in Europe, like Orban and others, because their citizens are now rising up saying, no, 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 no. When did we become friends with Russia? Like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, no, 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 no. And, like Slovakia, I mean, think about it. Like, their prime minister is a freaking communist. He was a part of the communist regime. Like, they don't want to go back to being communist. They don't want Russia to have more influence in their area. So I love like I'm very hopeful,
Yay!
yeah, I am because I feel like things are coming to an end. And I feel like all this stuff that Russia's doing, these little, things are just like the last gasp of an empire that is falling. And, I know that their citizens are not going to stand up. Russians, apparently, I don't know what's wrong with Russians. They don't embrace their freedom or their
I think they've been
power.
crushed. Like they've been crushed
Oppression,
under
yeah,
their
they
feet,
love to be
right? So
oppressed. I don't know what it is about Russians. They
I don't think
love
they love it. I
oppression.
think they're just,
Used
when
to
you've been
it, yeah.
when you've
They
been
work
crushed
with it.
down for 100 years, right? It's like
But I feel like I feel like things are, and I think Trump knows that. And I think that he, like you said, he wants to be on the winning side.
yeah. Definitely.
The
Keith,
only,
you wanted to speak, but then I want to make sure we bring up what's happening because as we're taping this, I think Netanyahu is speaking to the UN.
He
So
already did.
he already did. Okay, we'll touch on that in a second. But go ahead, Keith. You wanted to, one more thing on this?
Well, just on the Hegseth calling all the generals and admirals in together and stuff, it just instantly reminded me of this Cold War movie, 7 Days in May,
Hmm.
and it's basically about a military coup in the United States.
Oh,
Now, I don't think Hegseth would be organizing a military coup unless he thought Trump was. So that would come closer to 2028, I would think. When
Like
Trump's
martial
up.
law we're talking? Because I saw one
Yeah.
historian say they thought it might be a martial law thing.
why would you need to bring them all into one spot? It's scary in its ramifications. But I'd say if you get to check it, it's a great movie. It's a very solid movie, black and white movie. 7 Days in May,
Yeah.
fantastic Cold War movie. But it does raise this kind of, oh, what the hell are they doing with this? Because you don't see this. This has never been done. So it's very unusual and very scary. So I
So
just wanted to make.
what did Netanyahu say? Because like almost every other world leader condemned what
They
he's
walked
doing.
out. People walked out. Most of the people and he basically just said, you know, maybe if I could paraphrase, he basically said, "Fuck the Western countries that have talked about a two-state solution. Fuck you. You're not remembering October 7th. You know, you're and that they are going to finish the job. They don't care what anybody thinks, and that they're ready to forge relationships with other Arab nations that are not looking to kill them. And thank you very much."
Glad they walked out. I mean, I'll have to listen to his speech myself, Mark, to see what I think he was saying. But I think we can fully condemn what's been going on in the last couple of months in Gaza without in any way supporting Hamas or without in any way not being sympathetic to the Jewish people.
Yeah.
How long is the world supposed to look at those images
Yeah.
Right.
and not have our hearts just broken? I don't care what you say. If you think back to the time of the Ethiopian famine, when the
Yeah.
CBC news crews went in there and showed those, that changed the world, like snapped too.
Yeah.
My God, we're watching children starve to death and die. And we're witnessing the same thing in Gaza now, months and months and months. October 7th, which year? Like we're coming up on the second anniversary of that horrific
Yeah.
nightmare. That was an absolute nightmare. And I can't, thinking about what went on that day is just horrifying in itself. But the response 2 years later of bombing the rubble into more rubble and killing people every time you do it, the world just can't absorb those images. I mean, it's just horror, and we need to stop this. When we're saying it can't happen again, we're watching it happen again. And I don't know. I don't know if you want to use the word genocide. It's certainly just a horrific war. You're
Well,
bombing
that's
a
what the
ship.
report was. I mean, the report came out
Yes,
that he
exactly.
meant 4 of the 5 things of genocide, right? So people can look at the report, they can take issue with it. To me, it isn't even about the labels of genocide or famine. It's what we're seeing with our own fucking
We're
eyes,
seeing exactly. It's
right?
those images you just can't. And I did note one thing yesterday on his flight to the United Nations. They posted his normal flight route out of Jerusalem to New York, and the one he had to take yesterday because in the airspace in so many countries he'd be arrested as a war criminal.
Yeah.
Right.
So he had to sort of fly right over the Mediterranean, skip through, and all around
Yeah. I
uh,
saw.
the world. But the point is that these images, their actions by Israel, have pushed so many supporters of Israel
I know.
You just
Against the
can't.
wall. Against the wall, exactly.
I'm sorry.
That is a perfect point, Keith, because I have a lot of Jewish friends. I've long been a supporter of Israel. I fucking hate Hamas. I hate these Iranian proxies who are terrorizing the world with every fiber of my being. But and I have been I feel guilty because I've been turning a blind eye. I've been like, okay, Israel, I have to support Israel, have to support Israel all the way, all the way, all the way. And then it's like, oh my God, like, this is so much. And if it wasn't for, as a journalist, and Keith, have been journalists in our lives. If it wasn't for Israel's basically barred any international journalists from being in Gaza. So the only eyes and ears we have are from people on the ground who are Palestinians in the war zone who are being slaughtered as well. And then you're like, man, journalists are being slaughtered. Like, that's like that's a line for me. Like journalists being slaughtered.
Yeah.
Like anyway, and I find myself against the wall, and some of my close friends, I'm like, I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm like, geez, guys, like, can this end? And I understand there's no going back and there's no forgiving what happened on October 7th. There's no fucking forgiving it. And Hamas brought this on the Palestinian people, not the Jews. Hamas
Right.
did this to those people.
Right.
But can we is there not a way to end it and have an international government force go in there and set up a legitimate government? Because one of the things Netanyahu said today was he doesn't trust the PLO. He thinks they're corrupt, the PLA or whatever they're called, Palestinian Authority, PA. And he said they're corrupt. They haven't had an election in 20 years, which he's right.
Yeah.
And he doesn't trust them. And that. So what if we establish a international government that can then make sure that we have proper elections there?
That might be the Bill Blair or the Tony Blair thing.
Tony Blair thing. Yeah, yeah.
And so you know what? I think we can hold both thoughts, right? We can hold the thought that what happened on that day was absolutely horrific. Don't ever forgive it. Completely condemn Hamas and get rid of them, right? And we can hold the thought that the Palestinian people do not deserve what is happening to them.
Right.
We must protect them as human beings. I mean,
Yes.
look what happened. Wasn't it Italy that went on a strike for an entire day, shut down their country in
Yep.
solidarity with the Palestinian people this week? I mean, like that you're not offside to be pro the people of Israel and Jewish people and want Israel to be a thriving, safe democracy in the Middle East, and also want what's happening in Palestine to stop for the sake of the Palestinian people. I mean, I think all intelligent people around the planet can have those thoughts, Mark, at the same time. Okay, I'm going to make a segue here just in our final moments, because I promised we would just talk about Poilievre's, I was going to say triumphant return, but I can't, because not only in Parliament has he been getting a little bit of a, because they're like, well, if you've been in your seat since the election, you might know this, Pierre. Like, so he's getting a little bit of the rough treatment, which is funny. But also, he finally does this big interview, and he's like, now the carbon tax is gone. You're welcome. He's taking my policy. You're welcome. I'm watching him going, like, are you fine? Right? Like,
I'd negotiate a tariff-free deal. We didn't think of that. There's a hell of an idea. Jesus Christ.
if I were running things, we'd get rid of the tariffs. Oh yeah? Oh, good. But literally to go on, guys, the big Sunday show in Canada and to go, you're welcome. Like, I'm looking at him going, like, could you be more petulant, Pierre? Could you be more petulant? Like, every single administration of every country around the world takes ideas from their opposition in the election and realizes that they are something they should move on it. But then the opposition doesn't usually come back and go, you're welcome.
One great image this week that I thought was just fantastic because it was so on brand was Doug Ford eating the ice cream bar while at a news conference taking questions. And it was 180 degrees different impact than Pierre Poilievre eating that apple while talking to a reporter, which came off as so condescending, so rude and disrespectful. Whereas Doug with the ice cream bar taking questions was just, that's a guy who likes his ice cream. And he was on brand and his Chapman's. And it was so funny to see.
Yeah.
But I just thought it also spells out how good Doug Ford is at marketing himself and the People's Party in Ontario, and how bad Poilievre is at getting his message across to virtually anyone in an appealing way.
Because Pierre hates people. Doug loves people. Doug is a populist. Doug loves to be with the people. He's always been a good guy to, get around. Pierre does not like people.
I think he loves some people. We've seen him hanging out in trailers with some people.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, convoy people. Right, I forgot about that. But what's funny? What struck me was, the unfortunate, and again, careful what we say, the unfortunate and wrong and evil assassination of Charlie Kirk. And then one of the first things that we do in the Canadian Parliament is we make everyone stand up and acknowledge and moment of silence for a podcaster from the United States. And it was like they were trying to play a gotcha movement there with they were trying to capitalize on the anger and the rightful anger that was on, that was permeating across the globe on this. Holy shit, is this what's happening in our world now? We got crazy young white troubled men going around and assassinating people. And then, if it would have been that, like, let's stand, like, this was a horrible thing, we need to do more to prevent this. It wasn't. It was like, I thought it was just really strange. And then all the pressure that many MAGA Maple people were putting on Carney, like, why hasn't he tweeted about Charlie? I'm like, this is where we're going now, guys. Like, come on. Like, honestly,
I don't know if you saw Bonnie's interview with me last week, Mark, but you should check it out because, and our audience should as well, because she is a conservative.
Yeah.
She's from Alberta, and she ran against Poilievre, and she's steeped in that whole world, right? And so she said, obviously, she goes, they're upset that a Canadian prime minister doesn't immediately recognize the murder of an American citizen by another American citizen, right? I mean, she just put it in those terms, and I thought, yeah, no, that's the point. But it's about standing up and saying there should be no political violence, right? So I don't have an issue with the prime minister, which he did do, putting out something about political violence. That's appropriate. It's a big story. That's fine, and we condemn it here on the OShow, and I've condemned it everywhere.
I don't have a problem with it either, Laura. I'm not saying I have a problem with it.
But what I think you're talking to is same thing that Bonnie Bonnie said last week, which is that there is no longer a conservative party in
No,
Canada.
it's a MAGA party.
It's a MAGA party. And
Yeah.
she's like, we need a conservative party for our democracy that is healthy and that can, push back, because she was critical of some things Carney's doing. But
Yeah.
this is not what we have. That's
Yeah.
Bonnie Critchley last week saying that. And the fact that they wanted to do this big show of solidarity to this martyr for the MAGA cause,
I know.
that's where I think it got a little bit offside. And
But
so
if I'm Pierre, why is Pierre allowed, like, if he wants to come in and show himself as a prime minister in waiting, like, I feel like, he needs to control the MAGA element in his caucus and not allow them to do this kind of grandstanding. Like, show some, like, be
But why isn't he? Like,
I don't know.
he doesn't have a
No, I-
security clearance. Doesn't have a security clearance. Like Bonnie said last week, she said, "Where's the fuck is your goddamn security?"
Yeah, I know.
And
I
that
know.
I
Did he
think
even
that
know-
got 100,000 views. Right?
Did he even know who Charlie Kirk was before he was shot?
Right.
No, like I know most Canadians did not.
Right.
They had no idea. So to your point of seeing the House of Commons having a moment of silence for a man that most Canadians had never heard of
Right.
until he was assassinated. I mean, that's a hell of a way to gain fame. And so it just seemed out of place or a misstep. It just didn't
Right
seem-
out of the gate. I just felt like it was kind of
Well,
like
I felt like it
It
was
was
a
an
double
attempted
down.
gotcha, though.
I don't think it was a misstep, guys.
Yeah.
I think it was a double down. I
Mm.
think that however they are being supported by MAGA, maybe it's just, through thoughts and prayers, but whatever is happening with the Canadian Conservative Party or Poilievre's MAGA party is more accurate. Whatever support they're getting from them, even if it's just in terms of getting on Fox News or whatever, or getting big endorsements from the MAGA powerful, they doing that just emphasize that for Canadians. So the responsibility of Canadians is to see that, to feel like, okay, why does that feel strange, or what are my concerns with that? Or maybe they don't have any, maybe they're fine with it because a young man did die and it was political assassination. But they're not being subtle. Like somebody said to me when Stephen Miller spoke at Charlie Kirk's funeral and basically copied Goebbels' speech, right?
Yeah.
Basically did a Nazi speech almost verbatim. Everyone was comparing it online, and I said, "Nazi says what?" And a top columnist for an American MAGA-owned newspaper said, "Laura, you have no class." And I said, "Okay, so I cannot call out someone who is an avowed white supremacist who is literally quoting to a global audience a Nazi speech. We're not allowed to do that now." He's not being subtle, right? And then I had a former conservative MP come at me and say, "Laura, you're better than that. There's a time
God.
season." And I'm like, better than what? Calling out fascism when it's on TV? I'm like, I know I'm on the right side of history here, my friend. Maybe you ought to think about it, right? So
Well,
guys, sorry, go ahead, Keith.
No, I was just going to say Trump, his speech at that thing. I hate my opponents. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I hate talk about bringing a country together.
Yeah.
Well, Mark did say he hated someone earlier. I forget who it was. I mean, you're being funny.
Hamas, I believe.
Hamas. Okay, we can hate Hamas.
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, so Trump tanked that thing. Listen, guys, I feel like we've gone way over time, but I could talk to you all day, which is why everybody's like, are they going to be on? Are they going to be on? Okay, so I think we've gone around the horn on this thing. We've covered as much as we can today. But I do want to end on just very quickly where your stress meter is, because we gave some pretty low ass numbers the last couple of times, guys. Like it was pretty rough. So Mark, where is your stress number now?
Yeah, I don't think it's changed since the last time we talked. I'm still very stressed about the situation. I'm stressed about the plight of young white men. That's really been something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and what's happening to young men in our society, and why do they feel so ostracized. And I'll tell you, really, what stressed me out this week was I had a conversation with my daughter in the car on the weekend, and she was telling me that she had an English assignment where, the point of the assignment was to research and take a position on an issue. And she said, "Dad, I know you're probably going to tell me to do something political, but I'm not, because I'm afraid." And she said, "Because if I say anything political in class, the boys will bully me. They will bully me because most of the boys in our society have aligned themselves with right-wing politics. I don't know how they got there.
The brosphere. Yeah.
The brosphere." And she was afraid. And I thought to myself, like, that turns my stress-o-meter up, because at a time when, it's not a time, we need to change. We need to talk to each other. It's okay to have healthy debate. It's okay to have a difference of opinion. We did this for years. We were good at it. Why all of a sudden did we get bad at this? And I think that caused me more stress this week because I can't figure out how we're going to fix that.
I feel like 20 years ago, you and I might have had some disagreement at a bar over some beers about
For
something.
sure.
And I know that Keith, your comments about the Canadian military not being ready for some stuff got a lot of disagreement on YouTube when this came out. But that's okay. We're allowed to have these conversations, right? And
You can be wrong.
whatever, you know what? And whatever blowback that we get, I'm sure we'll get blowback about telling the ambassador to Canada what we think of him in a non-polite way. But who cares?
Yeah.
We're allowed to express ourselves. As long as you don't promote violence, as long as you don't promote hate, like we are allowed to disagree. We are allowed to call things out. If we didn't learn anything from the last week of horrors in the United States, it's that the freedom of speech underpins every other freedom. Because if we can't speak out, we can't fight for other rights. If we can't speak out, we can't fight for the very essence of democracy in a free, pluralistic society. So all of us should get louder. All of us should speak more freely. We should get in more debates. We should sit down with our neighbors who we disagree with. And trust me, Thanksgiving, lots of people that I know are not on the lower side of politics. But it doesn't matter because we can still talk about it. Otherwise, we lose so much. Keith, your stress meter and final words?
I think my stress meter is about the same as well. I mean, I'm not overly stressed. I was concerned about the whole Kimmel thing, but to see him come back 2 days in a row, just poking the bear like boop, 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 boop.
So good.
I'm winning, you're losing, you're a loser. I mean, just continually doing that. That's the free speech that he was fighting for.
Yeah.
And the best part was when he said to the guy in the audience, did you see? He said, Trump.
Oh, yeah. Hey, free speech is only for me.
Yeah, I know. Trump, for people who didn't see it, he was reading Trump's tweet about him and he said, how Trump said that he had no audience and no talent. And one of the audience members said, we're here for you, Jimmy. And Jimmy said, fuck you. I'm the only one who gets free speech around here. It was hilarious.
But it absolutely was. It summed it all up. And as I say, it was an encouraging end to a disastrous week. But I'm still concerned that the two large Netstar and Sinclair that own those TV stations in the United States are still not going to air him. They're still fighting against him. And as broadcasters, they have that right. I mean, they're the employers. They can decide that. But they should decide it on reasons of merit. I mean, if it's Trump says he's not a funny guy, well, I think he proved them all wrong there. I mean, I had a couple of good chuckles, and his points against Trump were bang on. And he did it with some heart, too. He's getting choked up a couple of times during the thing. So it was all sincere. But I think that's the kind of debate we all want to see and want to have is someone, he did not apologize. And I thought that was great.
My favorite, he did cry about the fact that anyone would think that he would think that the murder of a young man was a good thing. Like he was very upset by that impression on him. He's a sweet guy. But one of my favorite lines ever was when he was just talking about how big his show is now because of Trump. And he said they're going to have to release the Epstein files to distract this, right? So on the Epstein files, they now have the votes. If only Mike Johnson will let this Democrat who just won in so she can tip the balance. They're trying to block that or slow that down. They're talking about, going away so they don't have to talk to the Democrats about the whole shutdown. There's a lot more hell coming in the United States for us to track. But guys, you did an amazing job here. And I promised a lot of our viewers that I would bring up that there is a petition out there that is pushing for honesty within the House of Commons. I will put it in the show notes. It's got many, many signatures and not getting a lot of attention in Canadian news. So the OShow wants to help promote that. I'll put it in the notes so you can check it out and you can sign that petition. Because again, it's about protecting our democracy and speaking out and speaking together. And you guys are amazing. And I can't wait to listen to this later because I always forget all the things we say, but it's pretty fun to listen to later. To all of our audience out there. Oh, look at
Blue
that.
Jays. Go Blue Jays.
Of course. The Blue Jays. Let's go, Blue Jays. There's a lot of good things. I'm feeling on my stress meter much more positive in the last 72 hours, a lot because of Ukraine, but also if you want to feel better, watch how Carney handled that international audience and how he pitched Canada for the next century. And you can actually think that maybe we might come out of this stronger than we went into it. And that would be an amazing scenario in this very, very fraught time. So thank you all. Subscribe, share. Let's get to 10,000 subs. Give us good ratings for all the algorithms and talk to your neighbor. Fight with them, argue, discuss. We're still a free country. As I'll leave it on this. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, told an international audience that our public square is loud, diverse, and free. And we are gonna drill down on that here on the OShow and our pro-democracy community around the world. Take care, guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
When you care about current affairs, it's on the OShow. And when you want to get clear what's going on here, it's on the OShow. you like to stay in the know, tune yourself into the OShow. It's the OShow. Lord Babcock's the OShow. And with a lot of great gas, she puts them to the test on the OShow. Yeah, there's no doubt that we calling them out on the OShow. You gotta stand for something or fall for it all. Canada, you hear the call of the OShow. It's a podcast, the OShow. Laura Babcock's the OShow. Stay informed with the OShow, OShow.
Your merch bid.